Hello everyone and welcome back to A New Age, Erase and Repeat It Again by UkiDrakii on AO3. This will be Chapter 8, Fire, Magma, and Darkness. Summary: Blackbeard might be the biggest threat on Benaro, but Sakazuki can't really let the opportunity to get rid of someone as troublesome as Gold the Ace pass. A note here, there is canon typical violence in this, so that means, well, violence anyway. I'm pretty sure you can guess what kind of violence will be in this. Firefist Hayes has been seen nearing Banaro Island, which is where the murderer of Whitebeard's fourth commander is rumored to be hiding, said Sakazuki as soon as he entered Sengoku's office. He knew the fleet admiral wouldn't approve of this mission if there was a risk of Garp learning about it, so he had to make sure that the man wasn't anywhere close before coming in. "All right," said Sengoku, blinking at him in surprise at seeing him barging in. "That's our chance to kill a Whitebeard commander without the Yonko coming after us. Whoever managed to kill a commander must be powerful, and given that Firefist is alone here while Whitebeard is staying in the New World, it means that he decided to chase after the killer without Whitebeard's permission. We have seen firsthand how easy to anger he can be. Since he had no say in who was chosen as Chichibukai, he hadn't been able to prevent Ace from melting one of their warships and sticking it to a marine base as a refusal when they offered him the position. Whitebeard won't let us kill one of his crew even if he disobeyed his orders," countered Sengoku. "No, but the fact that the man who managed to murder a commander and Whitebeard isn't going after him tells us that the Yonko is wary of him, which means that if he learns that Firefist died by his hands, he won't expect us to be responsible." Sengoku kept silent for a few minutes, and he could almost see the wheels turning in his head. Sakazuki had always suspected him of knowing Gold the Ace's true parentage long before his arrest. Garb was famous at Marineford for bragging about his grandsons to anyone listening, whether they were willing or not, and Sengoku would have known that Ace wasn't Garb's by blood. The timing was suspicious, and if he had seen a photo of the boy, he was too smart not to see the connection to Roger. "If we do this, we're keeping it quiet. We can't let anyone, even here at Marineford, know what we're doing." And here he was, the fleet admiral that had no problem ordering Garb to assist in his own grandson's execution. Some might have called the man soft, but Sakazuki wouldn't make the mistake. Sengoku was a cold-hearted strategist at his core, and he might have become disillusioned with the world government over the years, which Sakazuki couldn't fault him for, but he still believed in the might of the Marines and the end of the great age of piracy. Killing Gold the Ace without risking a war with Whitebeard? Of course he would be on board. "The closest base to Banaro is NES Lobby. If I leave today, take Onigumo and, let's say, Doberman with me, and us protect them from the fallout of NES Lobby if a buster call is triggered. I can use the Marines there to protect the civilians. If they see the start of a fight between Firefist and his opponent, it will give more credibility to the idea that we didn't kill him than if it was just me saying it. You know, you'll have to stay out of the New World for a few months after that. Make that out of the Grand Line," said Sengoku, not wanting Marineford to be destroyed if Garp thought that Sakazuki had anything to do with Ace's death and decided to attack him. "I'll do a tour of the bases in the Blues, put the fear of an admiral in them. But you know I can't stay out of the Grand Line for that long. There are people that depend on me to keep them safe." Drake was near the middle of the Grand Line now, and even if nothing should go wrong, he couldn't stay out of reach for too long. "If Whitebeard learns you're responsible, I won't be able to commit any resources to your protection," warned Sengoku. "The Godosei won't hesitate to fire you if it means protecting themselves." As long as everyone keeps quiet about this, we'll have no reason to suspect anything, said Sakazuki calmly. Firefist and Blackbeard's pirates have made contact, one of the ensigns that were hiding on Benaro whispered, through the den and Mushi. They're only talking from now. Blackbeard's sniper has shot Firefist, who is retaliating. Fuck! There was a few seconds of silence after the shout before the voice came back. Sorry, sir, the Marine sheepishly said the Marine sheepishly. He couldn't believe he had sworn in front of an admiral like that. Someone decided to throw a house at Firefist. I almost got hit. The fight is really starting now. Blackbeard is. He has a devil fruit, sir. I don't know what kind. He seems to be controlling a sort of black fire, so either a paramecia or a logia. Marines, make sure that the civilians are safe, Sakazuki ordered, his voice carrying easily to the other ships. We need to prevent Firefist Ace and the Blackbeard pirates from leaving this island unless they're dead or in cuffs. If you see them leaving, delay them until either me, Vice Admiral Doberman, or Vice Admiral Onigumo can come back to fight. Yes, sir, shouted the Marines, all getting ready to take their post, most on a defensive position on the ships that would spread out around Benaro Island. A small part coming to the island to make sure that the civilians had really fled when the Blackbeard pirates had reached them. They hadn't seen anyone on the island, but they could still be hiding on it somewhere. Given Akainu's destructive powers, it was best to make sure no one was close. Ensign, join the ones that are taking the civilians to safety. If you see anything change, warn us, he ordered on the den, hanging up before the Marine could answer. With a tilt of his head to tell them to follow, he started to use Keppo to reach Banaro, Doberman and Onigumo on his heels. Stay out of reach of his powers, he warned them as soon as he touched the ground near where Ace and Blackbeard were fighting. They could see from there that the entire town around the two fighters had vanished. For both of them, he amended, we have no idea what Blackbeard is able to do, so for now he's the higher threat. Liberation! Blackbeard's shout resonated through the air around them before the town suddenly reappeared, its broken debris exploding out of Blackbeard's body and crashing around him. Doberman, you're with me, ordered Sakazuki. They jumped in the middle of the fight just as Blackbeard used his power to grab onto Ace, Sakazuki's fist smashing into Blackbeard's head and sending him flying before he could end his attack. That wasn't hockey, said Onigumo, staring at Ace, who jumped away from them and was clutching the shoulder Blackbeard grabbed with a look of shock on his face. We need to be careful, cautioned Doberman, grabbing his katana at the same time his arms appeared on the back of Onigumo's body and took hold of the swords hidden beneath his coat. Try to directly engage him. I'll attack from further away until we understand what he's able to do, ordered Sakazuki. Doberman was good enough to last some time against Blackbeard, since the man only had one devil fruit and was now and didn't yet have years of training with it. He could do more damage from a distance, since Blackbeard's ability to cancel his devil fruit would leave him feeling weakened, which wasn't a problem Doberman had. Admiral Akainu, spat Blackbeard, and here I was going to offer you Ace's head as an offering to get into the Shichibukai. As if the Marine would accept a man who betrayed Whitebeard and killed one of his sons, answered Sakazuki. Blackbeard lost his smug smile as he saw his plans to infiltrate and pull down destroyed. Then I'll have to kill you all here. He extended his hands towards them, unleashing his darkness and attracting everyone to him. Doberman swore as he readied his katana to impale Blackbeard as soon as he got close enough, while Ace and Onigumo, who were further away and not as affected by the gravity, used their devil fruit and geppo to respectively to stay away. Sakazuki let his body transform into magma, the earth burning under his feet, faster than Blackbeard could react. The magma had extended from him, melting everything in its wake until it reached Blackbeard's feet. The pirate screamed in pain as he felt his flesh melt under the heat. He stopped his attack to activate his haki in an attempt to protect himself. A Doberman used this moment to strike, his katana swiftly embedding itself in Blackbeard's shoulder, the man moving at the last second to avoid being decapitated. He retaliated quickly, one hand grabbing Doberman's katana and the other throwing the Vice Admiral away. "I'm more resistant than you think," he panted as the magma disappeared, revealing his feet. The flesh had been melted to the bone in some places, and only his haki and incredible resistance to pain were stopping him from crashing to the floor. He extracted the katana from his shoulder and threw it towards Doberman, but Onigumo jumped between them and batted the sword away. "I'm not letting you steal my fight!" shouted Ace, now free to attack Blackbeard without Onigumo stopping it. "Stay away," said flatly Sakazuki, sending a flying magma fist toward Ace and forcing him back. He grabbed Blackbeard by his uninjured shoulder and increased the heat in it until it became unbearable. Blackbeard used his haki to try and protect himself, but Sakazuki just used his other hand and punched through his stomach. With the pain coming from his feet as well as the burn spreading from his shoulder and the inside of his stomach, Blackbeard lost his focus, and with it his control on his haki. He tried to get one last attack, activating his power and clutching Sakazuki. A fire spear stabbed him through the heart, and he fell down, finally dead. Sakazuki turned to face Ace, who was staring at the body at his feet. He took a step towards him. The young man's gaze snapped up. He tensed as he realized that the Marines would never have sent an admiral after someone like Teach, who had been a threat more to the pirates than the government. And he was the one Akainu was after, and he wouldn't let him leave without a fight. He set his body alight, watching warily as Doberman and Onigumo placed themselves a step behind Akainu. "Magma burns hotter than fire," said Sakazuki, turning his own fist into magma. Ace wasn't the half-starved, weakened by weeks in captivity young adult that he had been last time they fought, and he was warier of his skills when fighting at full strength. But the commander's grasp on haki had always been weak at best, so he knew he would easily win this fight if he put his all in it. However, he didn't want Whitebeard to turn against them. He couldn't kill Ace with his obvious magma powers, and the commander wouldn't take long to see that he was using only normal attacks to beat him up. Furthermore, he needed to kill him before Onigumo or Doberman were forced to get involved, if he wanted to sell the tale that Blackbeard had been the one responsible. He sent a wave of magma at him, Ace dodging it easily just as he'd planned. Armament Aki covered his arms, easily shielding him from Ace's fire fist and allowing him to counter-attack without pause. One hand grabbed onto Ace's outstretched arm, sending him tumbling forward, the other slapping hard on the bottom of his jaw. Ace groaned in pain as his head violently snapped back. He turned on himself to keep his balance, putting himself in place to try to slam Akainu against the floor. The Admiral released his wrist before he could finish his move, and used their proximity to slam his foot against Ace's stomach, sending the young adult flying into one of the destroyed houses surrounding them. He jumped after him, not leaving him the time to right himself. He grabbed his hair and slammed his head once, twice against the floor. Ace groaned weakly under him as he kept him pinned by his weight. His hand closed around the pirate's throat, and he slowly increased the pressure, making sure he couldn't breathe. Ace squirmed under him. but he let him, confident in his ability to choke him before he had the time to free himself. The dagger embedding itself into his side was a surprise. Ace's eyes were wide as he put all his considerable force into jerking the dagger up, aiming for Akainu's heart. He managed to raise it for a dozen centimeters before the ribs stopped its ascension. He dug his heels into the ground, tried to blink away the black spots that had started to appear in his vision, when Akainu suddenly shifted on top of him. The dagger was wrenched from his grip, Akainu using one of his hands to throw it away from them. It gave him just enough freedom to move his head slightly, enough to take one breath before Akainu's grip resumed its former strength. Fucking marine bastard! He choked out, voice rough. Sakazuki froze on top of him at that, his grip lessening slightly. He can lead the Marines on the right path. The sentence repeated itself in his head, and he suddenly understood where he had heard this voice before. The word Marine said just the same way. Roger. How could he have forgotten what Roger sounded like? He'd heard the man a few times on the battlefield when he was younger, and this wasn't the kind of thing you forgot. Why had Roger decided to send him back in time? Sure, he had influence over the Marines, but there wasn't any certainty that he wouldn't use his knowledge of the future to annihilate as many future pirates as he could. Isho would have been a better choice, he could admit. The man had been an impel down with them, and had a strong sense of morals that would have ensured he did everything for the betterment of the world, even if he had the tendency to let things happen and act at the last second. A glance at Ace under him was all the answer he needed. Even if he had joined the Marines earlier and became an admiral instead of him, Isho would have never been able to stop him from applying his brand of justice. Not when the Godosei was more than happy to back him up. Roger had needed someone that would be able to curtail his most murderous tendencies, and the only person able to do that was himself. He made a split-second decision, his hands clenching once again Ace's jaw, and he leaned until he was next to Ace's ear, and whispered too lowly for the Vice Admirals to hear. I'm only letting you live thanks to your birth father. Everyone had seen what Ace thought of Roger, and this would certainly mess with his head. Ace managed to tense even further under him, but lost consciousness not a second later. He kept the pressure far longer, until Ace's presence was barely a blip on his hockey, and slammed one last time his head against the floor. Ace's presence disappeared for good, and only the faint pulse against his hand reassured him that he hadn't killed the man. He was already regretting it. And there we go. So this is it for chapter 8. I hope you enjoyed it. Yes, he spared Ace's life, and the person who sent him back in time is Roger, which is a pretty big reveal. How did Roger do this? I don't know. It's a mystery. And Blackbeard just fucking dies as he should. It made me very, very, very happy the first time I read it, and it still makes me very, very, very happy that he's just rid of him so quickly, honestly. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you in the next chapter.